Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers podcast.
Sponsored by Journey 333. That is a place of mind, body, spirit that helps you with fitness, coaching, and nutrition to look better, live better, and feel better. We produce these episodes every week for your enjoyment to help people to overcome adversity and live their dreams. Yo, 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 hello, Overcomer Nation. Yes, I'm talking to you. If you're listening to this show, then you are an overcomer. The Overcomers podcast is sponsored by Journey 333. Now, that's a lot of threes. So that's fitness, coaching, and nutrition, mind, body, spirit, where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better. Today, I am on with my very good friend, Brandi Binkley. She is an amazing fitness extraordinaire. She had her own business for 10 years, her own brick and mortar in the fitness industry. It was called PhysioFit, right outside of Nashville. Right in Nashville. Beautiful place. Got to visit there myself. She's a fellow masterminder. She's a P10. And talk about overcoming. Brandi and I really connected during the pandemic because we were looking to overcome the problems with software in the fitness industry. There's really not a wraparound software. And never before, when you're trying to do even more with less during the pandemic time, did you realize the need for something that could just serve you better. So I can't wait for Brandi to share all about her journey through fitness today, her journey through life, and the journey that she's on now to serve the fitness industry in an even greater and bigger way with her software, Physio. So Brandi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Travis. I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much. It's always great anytime that I get to spend time with you, like, the time that we jumped off the cliff together. That was really cool. We'll have to tell people about that later on. But, I always like to kick off the show, giving people a chance to get to know you. Obviously, already we had that little introduction, but that's just scratching the surface. I didn't even tell them that you're a trainer of the year, right? So trainer of the year. What year was that?
2015. I'm dating myself.
All right. 2015. All right. So 2015 trainer of the year. So talk to me a little bit. Let's give people the CNN version of Brandi, right? If we were doing like your life story as a news clip on the news, how would it go? Tell us a little bit about you.
CNN. Let me see. What version would they tell?
Well, they would say, oh, by the way, guys, I said from Nashville. So it would start off, Lord willing and the creek don't rise. This is how it goes.
Yeah. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
Right. Yeah.
Well, obviously, born and raised in Middle Tennessee and grew up working very early age, put myself through college via the military, and served during and after September 11th, and got out of the military, finished my degree in exercise physiology, and decided to move home to Nashville, Tennessee to start my business. And so I started training out of somebody else's facility and doing a little training out of my garage. And I just realized that I only had enough hours in the day to see so many people. And I had so many big dreams of what I wanted to do to help people live a better life. And I think I just had a heart for like Fit Pros, just a big passion for Fit Pros, because we get up early, we stay up late, we grind. There's so many hours that people never even see. Our customers get to see just the snippet, the good stuff, right? They truly just see the CNN version of the work that you do. They don't see all the stuff in the background that goes on to make it happen. And so I wanted to create a facility where we empowered and enriched the lives of others through fostering creativity in our team and education in our team. And so that's where PhysioFit started.
Can I just take a second and thank you for your service too? As we kind of get into PhysioFit and then, of course, on into the physio software. I think it's special that we're doing this show together. Veterans Day is just around the corner. So whether you're able to catch this, before veterans or just after, I just feel so indebted to the brave men and women that have served our country and given us these freedoms that we have every day. And, I don't want to take that for granted. So I just want to say, thank you I also want to highlight you a little bit as being, I think, the first masterminder to ever show up with bullets in her bag. Oh man, right? Isn't there? I wasn't even there to witness it, but I mean, I don't know. The stories have grown bigger around the mastermind as the years have gone by. But what happened? You showed up to your first one and accidentally still had some of your ammunition in your bag, or what?
Oh yeah, I had a stray bullet that just hadn't been used in my little cosmetics case thing, and they didn't like that at the airport, so they
Oh
pulled me
yeah,
aside, and yeah. And there was no gun. There was just I had been to the range, and when you go to the range, you're not supposed to walk in with a loaded weapon. So I had unloaded my weapon, and I'd done it like I was in the cargo area of my car outside in the parking lot, unloaded my weapon, and when I had the handful of bullets, I put them down in my gun bag, which also had my cosmetics case in it. I think one of them must have just slipped inside of it, and I just didn't know.
that's
So here I go off to the airport 3 days later. And of course, then they're scanning my hands for gunpowder and all these things and asking me, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I work out. I own a gym. Like, I am harmless. I promise.
how did that scan
Oh.
work out? Did they detect gunpowder on you or no?
No, it's 3 days
Okay.
later. Now, if I had been that morning, they might have been able to find some just because it does kind of get in the crevices of your fingernails and stuff. But anyway, that has happened to me before.
Oh yeah, scary stuff. I mean, I was just coming back from Vegas, and I think it all started because I don't know, I left my belt on or whatever, and then they decided to wipe down my hands, and then they got an alert on their thing, and he says, "Oh, you're gonna have to stay here until I get a supervisor over." I said, "Well, can you tell me what the alert is for?" So I figured maybe I touched dirty money, maybe the money had drugs on it, or like whatever, right? So I thought maybe they were sensing for drugs, and he says, "Oh, well, this is for explosives, but it's usually a false positive. Somebody just has to come over and confirm it." And so I'm like, for explosives? I'm like, now I'm almost making a scene. I'm like, well, what happens now? You got me labeled as some sort of terrorist or whatever, what's
Yeah, you're like, I haven't touched anything explosive.
right. And he says, oh, well, it's usually a false positive. They'll confirm it. So now this guy comes over and he's like, he puts on a fresh set of gloves and he's wiping all over me with his gloves. And then he's going to test his gloves. So he's, wiped inside my waistband and down my legs and all over, places I'd prefer not to share right now, but he just touched me all over. And then he tests his hands and I'm like, well, I hope his hands are okay now, right? And it turned out that it was a false positive. I mean, it should have been, right? Because I didn't have any explosives, but it's kind of a tough thing to go through at the airport, I guess is my point.
It is.
So
Yeah, you feel a little accosted.
yeah, well, for sure. And I'm like,
But I would rather them be careful, right? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, I want them to do their job and I don't want them to let somebody on that does have explosives. But how I ever came up, unlike yourself, I don't have a gun. I don't go to the firing range. I had no reason. I mean, I hadn't even touched a firecracker recently on the 4th of July.
I think it's the general scent of Vegas.
Right. Well, that could have been. That was a pretty explosive.
It's in the air.
Oh, sure. They're always blowing one casino up and then, rebuilding another one. So who knows what I had all over me. But
Yeah.
so I wanted to thank you for your service and just kind of highlight what a unique individual you are. You're so fun. And then you were talking
You're
about,
welcome.
well, yeah. Thanks for adding value to my life for sure. Just knowing you adds value. Then you were talking about starting PhysioFit before I interrupted you and kind of took you down the veterans path. But
Yeah, no, it's okay. So I started PhysioFit in 2012 and no, 2011. And it was just myself and two trainers that were kind of contract employees and in a 1,400 square foot space. And then in 18 months, we got the opportunity to grow and to move into a bigger space. And that's the space that you've been to. And we were there for the bulk of the time the facility was open. So then COVID happened, which a lot of gyms closed their doors because they couldn't stay in business during COVID. That was not our situation. We kind of had grown from just a regular personal training outfit to we moved into group fitness over the years, and then we moved into physical therapy with having some medical oversight and different things like that. So we had a pretty robust team by the time January this year, or December last year came around. And, a developer wanted to buy our building. So we had to close down. And just to restart somewhere else would have been incredibly cost prohibitive. The rising cost in space had squeezed our margin to death. And so, we relocated our coaches, and our physical therapy team actually just now opened their new space, which is exciting. And that's where we are today. But in the middle of that, of COVID, what happened with you mentioned software, is that PhysioFit, I made a strategic decision to try to fix a problem, no massive problem that I was having, but that other people, in our mastermind and other fit pros were having, of managing all the parts of their business from different avenues. And it was really expensive.
Yeah.
And so I'm going, wait a minute, this is too segmented, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
that the industry is too segmented, and it doesn't allow us to grow. And it's almost like we're growing, financially by like 1% a year or 2% a year, when we really should be able to grow by 10, 15, 20% a year. And
Yeah.
so I connected with a client of mine who has a history in payment processing, and we had a really good conversation about software and technology. And they flew Sushant, who you've met, over to meet with me, and they had a investor deck ready. And so I said, okay, yes, I'll sign the dotted line, invest my money and my time to try to fix this problem. And so that's where we are today, a couple of years ahead now.
Yeah. So let me
So
highlight, a couple of things you said. So first of all, thank you for, kind of giving the CNN clip. I know that, of the fitness industry, how people only see a little piece of what we do. I know that some of the people that are listening today might be fitness business owners. They might be fitness enthusiasts. They might just enjoy hearing people overcome different problems in life, and, what type of tools and strategies they use to do that. So whoever you are, who's ever listening right now, I just wanted to, take a second and let Brandi highlight some of these pain points that she uncovered herself firsthand, 10 years having her own brick and mortar location. Her and I were actually on the same page, and I was thinking to myself, all right, so I'm out there interviewing software companies because I need a software that does more than what mine currently did. And I had my ultimate software checklist, and I'm like searching for something I'm starting to think is a unicorn. And I'm like, wow, this doesn't really exist. So what do I do? And I'm already a franchisor. I already own multiple locations. I'm trying to speak, and I'm trying to write, and I'm trying to do all these things. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine being that person that takes on this monumental God-sized task of, trying to create what we need. But I do feel that as coaches, I don't know, fitness trainers, I don't know, are we like the dumb jocks that got taken advantage of by the business world? Because we got 6 different softwares that we need to run our business, and we're, really getting ripped off on most of them for what we pay. And, it's just, let me just take it to this point. What pain points did you see firsthand as a business owner, and did you identify that you're trying to solve by creating this wraparound software that we call Physio?
the first one being that all of us want more time, and we want to be able to do what we love and make more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want more time because really, when we start our businesses, we are the business. We are the ones hustling the sessions, teaching the classes, trying to manage customer expectations, trying to clean the bathroom. Like, you're doing all the things and you're wearing all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, by the way, you got to learn how to do social media marketing, and you got to learn how to send out email campaigns. And, COVID hit, and oh, now you've got to go virtual. And so, like you said, none of us have really, people who run a business, who run a fitness business, rarely, probably less than 1% have a business degree, right? And so the other thing is, we don't understand budgets and cash flows and things like that. And so when I started learning more about business and started realizing how much I loved it, and I loved the challenge of it, I realized that not every fitness business owner does love the challenge of it. What they love to do is serve their people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to create a system where they could do what they loved and what they were really good at, while the system did a lot of work for them on the back end. All they've got to do is, put their clients in, put the information in, and now with AI, the system will work for you as long as you're diligent about doing your side of it. So to not have to log into 10 different systems to manage customer stuff, to do sales and all these things. And the big piece of that, like my why, I think Simon Sinek says you've got to have your just cause and your why. And my just cause is, Travis, you're going to get me emotional.
Mm.
So my just cause is that I don't want gyms to close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want fit pros getting out of the industry. They make the world a better place. Healthy people make healthy decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the healthier our customers are, the better the world is. And
Yeah.
so if you stay in business, the world's a better place. And
Yeah.
so I want to do everything I can on my end to help fit pros do that.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. And, you're, you get me emotional there. I remember with Cindy, we had so many shutdowns. We pulled all of our locations under one virtual roof. Pennsylvania, New York, they were just about as bad as California to be in as far as shutdowns go and things such as that. And so we're finally able to reopen Pennsylvania. And our key person that we still had on the team for that Pennsylvania location left us, I think it was about 2 weeks before we were able to reopen. And so Cindy and I come in here and, I almost felt a little bit like when Rocky visits the old gym, and there's a dusty glove there and, like, what are we going to do? And, I was just like looking at this wall that we had written, never give up on. And I said, well, we don't have any money to pay anybody. So, I mean, we could never give up and do it ourselves. And so we did, and we opened and we closed, and members asked for more sessions, and we still didn't have money to pay anybody yet because we hadn't built back up the membership that much. And so we did more sessions, but we did them ourselves. And one of the things that really would have helped us and made our lives easier is just, automations. What Brandi's talking about here is if you're in a fitness business, you more than likely have one email software. You have a body count software, you have a software that you use for text messaging, you have a software that you use for billing, you're probably using some sort of software to try to bring all the softwares together. Like there's so much,
Yeah.
There's a scheduler and just, all kinds of things. And so I won't list them all, but you get to about 10 different softwares. And so when Brandi said in the beginning that you only get the CNN version of what your fitness business is actually doing, yeah, right. If you see them coaching this session, you don't have any idea about the 10 different softwares that they're trying to add your name to and manage different needs that you may have within those softwares, and that these softwares don't talk to each other. So, if you've ever left a business and gotten a text or a message like you were still a member, that happens because you got 10 different softwares that aren't talking to each other. And it is people dependent on going through all those softwares and removing somebody. And so, Brandi, thank you for what you're doing, because I know that less fitness businesses would close if they had something like a system that really served them, that they could leverage more of their time to serve their people. And after all, that's what they're coming to us for. They're not coming to us to play around with 10 different softwares. They don't even know about that part. And they don't want to know about that part. So I apologize to you listeners that I just bored you with that part. But the point is, if you allow coaches more time to help people achieve their results by creating this back-end support system, you are helping to change lives, and you are helping to prevent closures. And I really just appreciate your vision and your why, just cause. Simon Sinek, I think that's the infinite game, So yeah, really good.
Yeah, we want to restore hope to the fitness industry. That's
Yeah.
it. It comes down to that.
What a great mission. And so in your software, there's going to be things that talk to each other and communicate better than other softwares. Like, what are some of the things you're most excited about that this software is going to bring to the fitness industry?
Goodness, I take a deep breath because there's a lot. initially, I mean, on just kind of at first glance, I'm really excited for the customer integration side. So right now, um, people don't really have an option of, I mean, your customers just use it to schedule, right? And to pay for their services. And so what we want to do is create a lot of stickiness of that customer with you as the gym. And also because it's better accountability and all those things. So there's an inner layer of communications within the app from the gym to the customer. There is, diet logging, challenges, social media integrations, wearable integrations to track all of their data for, how many times they've worked out this year, how many pounds of fat they've lost, or, hey, you've done a really good job drinking your water. And so it's almost like a built-in encourager to be able to not only track your client's success, but for them to get notifications from you saying, hey, you've done an awesome job this week. You worked out 2 days more than you did last week, and you drank, 32 ounces more water, whatever it is.
Oh, I really
But
like that part. I didn't even mention those
yeah,
guys. So when we're also checking up on you, we'll go to, say a wearable integration. MyZone is what we offer in our gym. So, we'll go to your MyZone software and we'll see how you're doing there. Then we'll go to our FitnessPal software and see how you're doing there. And like, these are all things that aren't talking to each other. So how cool would it be for their customer, even themselves, to just be able to not have to log into FitnessPal and MyZone
yes.
and everything else and just
So
kind
we
of see
want
a
their,
dashboard
when they're
for
using
themselves.
Journey, then that's their one-stop shop for their health and fitness.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you also have, this is interesting because I had somebody on our show not too long ago talking about artificial intelligence. You also have an artificial intelligence component, don't you? In there?
Yeah. So it's actually built on AI. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So most software companies now are built on AI,
Okay.
but there's still a learning curve for a lot of people, and I think that a lot of people think it's really expensive. And I mean, for us to build, it does get expensive, but I don't want it to be something that's unreachable for the industry that we're in, because like if you're talking like healthcare and like engineering companies and building firms, these huge companies who have billions of dollars a year in earnings, they can afford to do their own things with AI, but it gets cost prohibitive for the studio owner.
Mhm.
And so that's why we wanted to build this in, because we want you to be able to leverage that data in a healthy way, right? Not in a negative way, because AI can also be used negatively, but use it in a healthy way to be able to encourage your customers and to keep them on track, but also to keep your business thriving.
Well, sure. And also, here's what I know. Success is in the routine. We have to be able to, what we have at Journey is an MIA report that tells people that, or tells us how many times somebody's been in. And we know that we have to keep them in the routine to help them reach their goals, right? So obviously just having something that can kind of assess someone's patterns can tell us if they're starting to fall off or if they're staying on track. Like there's that. The other thing that I hope that a software company will eventually reach is I started off in the fitness industry when everybody had a tag that they'd scan at the gym. And this is kind of how they would check in. And then people would lose their tags and then we'd replace their tags. And then we got a fingerprint scanner. That was pretty cool. We had a fingerprint scanner where people would come in and then they'd touch their finger to a screen. And, although that was interesting, when COVID hit, not everybody wanted to touch their finger where somebody else's finger had been, right? So then we got what we consider a hands-free check-in, because we could go to our Journey app and then you could check in through your app. But I guess what I look forward to, one of the advantages for a customer about AI is that thing that when you're in a new city that you've never been to before, but your friends have been there, and AI understands your interest, and suddenly you get a restaurant recommendation on your phone because your friend had been there and because you share similar interests, and now you're seeing this. That's AI. So what I wonder about our fitness industry is, why with these phones knowing locations for all sorts of things, you use your app and it says you want to allow it to know your location, and some say yes and some say no. If you say yes, forget about clicking the button on your app. Forget about touching your fingerprint. Forget about remember to bring your gym card. Just check in because you're there, right? I mean, like you're in the building,
Show up.
Right? Like AI will know and check you in. So, I mean, I think that our fitness industry and, hopefully your software and things like that, I'm sure your software will get there if it's not there already, will just be able to automatically track attendance with, the way that things are built, so pretty cool.
And it'll be able to make recommendations on those customers. Like, hey, Travis, I hope you enjoyed your workout. Before you leave today, grab a protein shake for recovery on your way out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those
right.
kinds of things. So that's like automatic sales built in too, right? Because it's really difficult for a front desk person to say that to everybody.
I was sharing with you offline that I like the game of chess. The game of chess has now become a computer game that has collected all the data of all the Masters champions. And so what it can actually tell you in the game that you're in is what would be your next best move. So here's where we're lacking in our gyms right now is that quite often, the information that you get is, maybe your trainer had a handout for you. And so, you look at their diet handout or things like that. But imagine if your app could collect all the important information for you, right? And because that knowledge exists, and that's what the internet's about, that's what AI is about, is that it can actually scan the internet for, if you wanted to just simply ask the app to say, hey, what would be the best type of protein shake for me to have after the workout? And it says, oh, well, what you'd want for your weight loss goals are 1-to-1 protein to carb ratio, and because I've noticed that you clicked on that you love peanut butter, I would recommend the peanut butter chocolate, right? Like, I mean, this is like how good things can get and how different life can be compared to when maybe you got a recipe on a piece of paper that you may have left in your car or lost somewhere, I mean, that's just a whole different experience. So
yeah, it is
really cool where our world is heading. We can spend time being afraid of it, or we can just kind of get to know it and get to know its benefits. And I'm super excited for where your software is going to take it. Now I have an important question though for you. And I think, it's a question I've never asked you, but it just makes me curious. It's really about what makes you who you are. You're somebody that chose to serve our country. You're somebody that got excited over the challenge of having a business. Some people are just like, I'm out, throw in the towel, and then you're taking on this monumental task, software with a really strong why. And so I guess what I want to know, because I know you to be an amazing creation, is what makes you you. Is it your faith? Is it I don't know, Brandi, I just find you to be very impressive, the way that you're always willing to take on more, and it usually has to do with a pretty strong why to serve people, whether it be your fitness business or now this software. So I guess what's made you make these decisions in life and gives you that drive?
well, you answered it. It is my faith.
Okay.
That is my why. I have been and experienced incredible love from the creator of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I not speak of that which I have seen, right?
Yeah.
How can I not become that which I have seen an example of? And that kind of love supersedes everything. And so the big challenges don't seem so hard because I'm not fighting them alone.
Mm-hmm. So good.
If I'm told to go, I'm going to go. If I'm told to move, I'm going to move. And that requires, a lot of personal introspective time, right? And a discipline of every single day. I get up and I spend time in scripture and I listen. I was having a conversation with somebody this weekend. It was actually Amanda Middleman
Mm-hmm.
about what prayer is, and I have come to see that prayer is not talking; prayer is listening.
Mm. The memory of God returns to the quiet mind was a quote that I heard recently. And that's why I'm trying to quiet my mind down a little bit more. And what does that mean? For those of you out there, I hope you know that we're not really trying to beat you over the head with any sort of Bible thumping right now, because it's not. It's just accepting that you're a spiritual being having a human experience.
When for me, that's accepting everyone where they are too, right? Because that's how God's love has shown through to me.
Yeah.
Accepting Brandi in her best scenario and her worst scenario. And, we all have states of ourselves that we oscillate in and out of, right? Our good, healthy states and our not so healthy mindset sometimes. And the incredible thing to me about the love of Jesus to me is that it truly was not religion. It was loving everyone, no matter what, where they are.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the love, right? Loving everyone, no matter what, wherever they are.
Yeah. I love where this show's going, and I'm just going to take it there. I want to know this answer from you, so I'll just share. It was last year, and I thought that my health was really on the line. They said that I could have a mass on my brain and I could have cirrhosis in my liver. And this is a time where people, usually send out those foxhole prayers and, cling to, some church or faith or whatever. And I just had to analyze myself and kind of identify, who am I? Who am I? Right. And I realized that it wasn't the things I'd accomplished or what I had or what other people thought of me. And those were just aspects of my ego. And I read a definition of what is real. And what is real is that which does not change. And so our bodies have been changing since the time that we were born. I've been trying for a long time to go back and grab my 16-year-old body, and I just can't, so our bodies have been changing, but there's this part of us that doesn't change. And I'm coming right back to the point that you just made. This part of us that doesn't change is that part that's eternal, that part that's unique, that part where we finally realize, when you said, it's just to love everybody. You see, when we're in the ego, we believe that we're separate from everybody. And then sometimes we become part of a group, like Brandi was part of the military, and we've honored that. And so she gets that group consciousness, but yet still, if there's people that don't think the way that her group thinks or whatever, then you're kind of obligated to your group, at least during that period of time. However, the ultimate evolution in consciousness is to realize that there is no them and us. There's just we. Whatever source you believe that you came from today, you are a piece of that source, and I'm a piece of that source, and that makes us really one, right? And so that's, of course, you just have to love in the end, because it's like, there's a biblical quote, right? And it says, love your neighbor as yourself, and then it's just so important, because that's what we're honoring. If you do yoga, it's namaste. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you, right? So it was that hard. That's why I said I wanted to ask you this question. It was that hardship. Some of the best parts of who I am is my pain, my struggle. I thank God for my struggles that introduced me to my strength. That last year made me a better person. Took me on a spiritual path. What is there a specific challenge that enhanced your faith in life? Were you just born into a family that was very faith-based?
No,
what?
well, I think if you grow up in the South, everybody knows who Jesus is. Right? Like you can't be, and they call it the Bible Belt for a reason, right?
Right, yeah. You gotta go
That
get
doesn't
saved, right? Everybody's
exactly.
saving each other, right? Okay, yeah.
Yes. And people are incredibly churched, as I call it. They're religious and churched, and very few people talk about a relationship with the divine, right? And so for me, I had a kind of tough childhood until I was about 12 years old. And, my mother struggled with a lot of things and battled a lot of personal demons. And, of course, children kind of catch the overflow of that. And I remember hearing a fight one night, and I was terrified. And I was watching it, and I closed my eyes, and I knew how to pray because they teach you. I mean, it's like everybody, whether you believe in God or not, everybody prays around there.
She just did
And I
quote
just,
fingers, guys, so if
yeah,
you're just
like,
listening, she's like pray, little
yeah,
quote fingers. Yeah.
pray.
Yeah. Whatever that is.
Like so generic, and so it's just like this rudimentary repetition of words that don't really mean a lot to people. But something had stuck with me that I had heard my grandmother say, and it was, Brandy, if you're ever scared, all you've got to say is, God, Jesus, I need your protection.
Mhm.
And I know you love me. And I closed my eyes and I said that. And I don't know what happened, but I woke up the next morning in my bed.
Mm.
And I felt so safe and so at peace and so loved no matter what was going on, because my home really wasn't a home of like lots of love and nurturing at all. Um, I mean, I had my brother who did as much of that as he knew how at his age. But I just remember thinking, I have a source.
Yeah. Uh,
Like I have a source of strength. And I'm not alone, no matter how old I am, right? Like as a kid, you're terrified of being alone. And so that is where it all started for me.
yeah. That's so good. That's so good to bring you peace and just wake up the next day and safety, not just peace, but safety,
Yeah.
Um, most people that have watched this show long enough understand that I went to prison for 10 years. And, I was brought the book cart several times, and I'm not a reader. And there was only two things on the book cart, Louis L'Amour and the Bible. And so I eventually chose Louis L'Amour. I'm sure God was laughing at me then.
I
I'm
think
like,
that's
I
awesome.
ain't reading the Bible. But eventually I did, although I was through the Louis L'Amour series, and I'm like, all right, well, give me the Bible, and so I would read it, and it doesn't matter, I'm using Bible, for other people, maybe they're reading the Torah or whatever they're reading. But what I found was not because it wasn't interesting, but it could bring me such peace and allow me to sleep in an environment where it was pretty restless most of the time. And I just always, I remember one person told me before that, sometimes, the word or scripture or, that can be like just being rocked in a bosom, and, just really, really interesting to hear about the strength and the peace, because there were times where I was very unsettled, but yet I would be settled, and then I'd wake up the next day,
Mm.
probably waking up feeling like you felt, at peace. And so really cool. Now, Brandi, you're, like I just highlighted, an amazing person on an amazing path, and this show is about overcoming, and if you were to give people a tip or two or whatever about if you're facing adversity, what's worked for you. You're obviously, I'm sure that all your years in fitness weren't easy. You're not on an easy path now. And as you shared already, even your younger years weren't easy. So you just obviously shared one thing that's worked. But if you had a few tips for successful life and overcoming adversity, what would they be?
Well, the first I would say I will add that I overcame poverty. We were very, very, very poor. Um, and for some reason, I never actually thought about it until a few years ago. That was not a barrier for me. A lot of people, it creates limiting beliefs. Um, but what I remember telling myself as a young girl was always, no matter what, do your very best. Your very best. You can always walk away and be proud, regardless of whether you succeed or fail. And failure is different if you've given it your very best.
Mhm.
And so I always want to have something to be proud of, which is giving my very best, which also leads to kind of my favorite quote that a client of mine gave me 10 years ago. I was interviewing like top female uh, business artists, all these people, and she said, leave a trail of excellence. So not only do your very best, but you've got to leave a trail of excellence, which means you leave people in your wake who now pursue excellence,
Mm.
who now, because they have been with you, are better. Because it's not about us at the end of the day, right? It's
Yeah.
about the impact, the trail of excellence that we leave amongst the people who we've spent time with, whether it's 5 minutes. Maybe it's a stranger on the street who can't catch the bus in time because she's in a walker and you stop the bus for her, even though you're not getting on it. Maybe it is the child in your home who deeply needs their parent to love them. Or maybe it's your employee, whoever it is. It could be your neighbor, to leave a trail of excellence, and excellence comes out of love.
That's so good. That's so good. So do your best and leave a trail of excellence. What I'm really getting from that, I don't know what your best looks like to you. Hopefully you're not too tough on yourself, and hopefully, you realize that it's all areas of life. But to leave a trail of excellence, that means to leave every person in every situation better than you found them, right? Because of just who you are and who you show up as. I try to have a goal to start and end my day positively. And I have this goal to fill myself up with positivity because I got to go give it away. And if I don't fill myself up, I got nothing to give, so maybe that's your version of excellence. I know that's mine. However, for everybody, it's uniquely different. And so I like the way that this can just fit. What area of your life do you need to give your best, and how can you leave a trail of excellence? That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So Brandi, if people want to follow you, if they want to find out more about physio, can you tell them a little bit more about how to do it?
Yeah. So they can go to physio.biz. That's physio.biz. They can email me, Brandi with an I, at physio.biz. But they can also find me on Instagram at B as in Brandi, FitBoss, FITBOSS, B FitBoss, and as Brandi Binkley on Facebook.
And she does run her life like a boss, so she does be the fit boss. I love it. Love it. Brandi, thank you for being on today's show. You were an awesome guest.
Thanks for having me, Travis.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Overcomers Podcast, sponsored by Journey 333. When I am not hosting the Overcomers Podcast, I am working at one of our fitness franchises so that I can continue to help people overcome adversity on a daily basis. That's right. People come to the Journey 333 fitness franchises because they want a coach in their life. They want somebody to help them overcome the adversities of life, motivate them to higher levels of greatness, bring out their potential, help them lose weight, get off medications, fight depression, fight anxiety. That's what we do on a regular basis. If you feel like you want your life to be about helping more people to overcome their adversities, if you feel like you're an overcomer and you want to create more overcomers, then maybe owning a Journey 333 franchise would be for you. To find out more, go to www.journeyfitness333.com.